Welcome back, guys. The Fall of Prospero, homeworld of Magnus the Red and his Thousand Sons Legion at the hands of the Space Wolves of Leman Russ, the event that would affect the Imperium for more than 10,000 years to follow. So let's do this. Following the great Imperial victory during the Ulano Crusade against the Orcs, the Emperor gave overall command of the Great Crusade to Horus of the Lunar Wolves Legion, awarding him the title of War Master over all Imperial armies, including the legions of his brother Primarchs. The Emperor then departed the Crusade and returned to Terra to pursue his secret project to expand the Elder Webway for human use beneath the Imperial Palace. Magnus, meditating on Prospero, psychically foresaw Horus being corrupted by the influence of the Runist powers and the future events of the Horus heresy, the betrayal of the Emperor by half the Space Marine legions, and the sundering of the Imperium by a tumultuous and costly civil war. The only fate the vision did not reveal to Magnus was his own. Burdened with this volatile information by this precognitive vision, Magnus decided upon a course that would seal his fate. First, Magnus attempted to psychically contact his brother Horus, but to his dismay, found out that he was too late, and the War Master had already been nigh mortally wounded by a stab from the Camprak Anathami. Despairing, Magnus then decided to utilize the power of his legion's greatest sorcerers to convey the news of the impending civil war to the Emperor himself on Terra via sorcery, rather than using the far slower but legal means of astro-telepathy. Using an astral projection spell, the spirit of Magnus the Red hurled towards Terra through the warp. While in the Immaterium, Magnus came across a webway corridor that led to Terra, but found the barrier impenetrable. But then an anonymous entity within the warp whispered sibilantly to him, offering to provide the Primarch with additional power in order to breach the webway. Magnus seized the entity's offer, breaching the barrier and bursting into the Emperor's throne room. This act penetrated the powerful psychic wards the Emperor had raised around the Imperial Palace and allowed warp entities to penetrate the human extension of the webway and launched an assault against Terra itself, killing thousands of the Mechanicus adepts who had been laboring with the Emperor on his great work. With this breach, the Emperor's work was undone. Horrified, the Primarch's spirit returned to his corporeal body on Prospero. There, he received a vision from Zinch, the mysterious entity that had enabled him to breach the webway. The architect of fate informed Magnus that it was his destiny to serve the will of the Runist powers. The Emperor was furious at Magnus's willful violation of the proscriptions against the use of sorcery set by the Council of Nicaea, especially because Magnus had used the webway to reach Terra in time, and his actions had damaged the secret webway project. A centuries-long attempt to use this Elder construct to render dangerous warp travel obsolete and physically connect all the walls of the Imperium of Man together using human versions of the Elder's webway portals. The Emperor saw Magnus as the traitor to the Imperium's ideals, not his beloved son Horus, whom he did not believe was capable of betraying him. Leman Russ, Primarch of the Space Wolves Legion, who had always been averse to sorcery and had a general antipathy to Magnus as a result, was ordered to bring Magnus swiftly to Terra to account for his actions before the Emperor. During his voyage to Prospero, Leman Russ was instead ordered by an already corrupted Horus to destroy Magnus's Thousand Sons Legion, rather than simply bring him to account. Horus, as the Imperial War Master, carried the authority of the Emperor himself, and was therefore able to fool Russ into believing this was the Emperor's will, as if the Emperor had thought about his decision and changed his mind. Accompanying the Space Wolves were a full contingent of Adeptus Custodes, millions of Imperial army troops, and the elite Imperial anti-Psyker regime-bearing witch hunters known as the Sisters of Silence. In the meantime, Magnus had finally come to realize that he had been used as a pawn by Zinch, and he also understood that the forthcoming clash between the Space Wolves and the Thousand Sons was also a part of a chaotic plan to destroy two loyalist Space Marine legions. He decided to sacrifice the Thousand Sons and himself, rather than be the unwilling puppet of chaos yet again. For this reason, he did not forewarn the people of Prospero or his own Astartes of the coming Imperial assault. He actually placed a psychic veil over the planet, so his legion would have no knowledge of the approaching invasion fleet, did not order the manning of the planetary defenses, and sent the legion fleet of the Thousand Sons away from their home star system. As a result of their Primarch's actions, the Imperial assault on the world, remembered as the Fall of Prospero, took the Thousand Sons by total surprise, raining death down from orbit. The invading force reduced the unprotected planet to a burned out slab of rock. Because the Prosperon capital city of Tezca was always protected by an impenetrable psychic shield generated by the sorcerers of the 15th Legion, an invasion of the city was staged. In the brutal fighting that followed, Prosperon combatants and civilians were ruthlessly exterminated, and the city was utterly destroyed, along with its libraries and all the hard-won psychic knowledge, which sent Magnus into a deep grief. Even as Prospero burned, Magnus was convinced that he had done nothing wrong to merit such a retaliation from his father, and that nothing he had done warranted such destruction. Changing his mind about his inaction, he took to the battlefield and broke the Space Wolves' assault with his great psychic powers, eventually meeting his brother Leman Russ in melee combat. At the climax of the battle, Magnus shattered Russ's breastplate with a mighty punch, puncturing one of his hearts. But Leman clung onto his opponent's arm, and when close enough, kicked Magnus in his single eye. With Magnus blinded, Russ seized his opportunity to lift Magnus into the air and break Magnus's back over his knee. In this moment of greatest need, Tzeentch came to Magnus and offered to save all that he had wrought if Magnus offered his eternal fealty to the Changer of Ways. To save himself, his legion, his world, and all the knowledge he had accumulated, Magnus pledged his soul to the service of the Chaos God of Change and Sorcery. The response of Magnus's new patron was immediate. The City of Light was transported into the Eye of Terror, to a new demon world that had already been prepared for its new occupants. Prospero was destroyed that day, but Magnus and his legion survived. By the time the Thousand Sons were seen next, they had joined up with Horus's force of traitor legions on their way to lay siege to Terra, and Magnus the Red had become the most powerful of all Tzeentch's demonic servants, a demon Primarch. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay tuned for more Warhammer 40K lore.